Hi guys, today's video we will be reviewing Aston Martin's first ever SUV, the DBX. So sometime last year, before the car was launched, Aston Martin invited us here to a pre-launch behind closed doors preview of the DBX. And as they pulled the wheels of the car, this was my first view of the DBX in person. And I have to say that when I remember looking at the car head on from this perspective, it immediately reminded me of the first generation Porsche Cayenne, which is appropriate actually, because if you think of it, the Porsche Cayenne was the car that paved the way for performance brands to go into the luxury SUV segment, because after the Cayenne came the likes of the Audi Q7, came the likes of the Bentley Bentayga, the Lamborghini Urus, and now we have here the DBX. So if you compare this to the feel, if you look at the side profile of the DBX here, it is of course not outrageously outright sporty like the Urus. Alright, and in this example, the air suspension is raised to its highest setting. But if you compare this next to the latest Cayenne or the Bentayga, the DBX is definitely more dynamic, okay, and this is evident from its roof, the rear section of its roofline. Okay, it's a more aggressive roofline that you see here at the back. So what I like about how they styled the DBX here is that they have kept an obvious SUV profile here, but they still managed to integrate the familiar Aston Martin design cues. Okay, see like how the tail lights here, how these tail lights are shaped, the shape of these tail lights. All right, they are from the Aston Martin range of sports cars, and quite amazingly, despite the difference in proportions, they have managed to make it work into a cohesive looking design. Okay, these tail lights actually, you can also opt for a smoke finish, which means that they will have a clear lens. All right, which may, with some colors, may look better. Okay, this black paint, I have to say, does not really flatter the lines of the DBX, if I'm to be frank. And no, that was not a paid product placement by DHL. So we come back to the front. Once again, the familiar styling cue, Aston Martin styling cues are here. The enlarged grille. Now the reflections unfortunately obscure some elements, but I love these headlights. Okay, I like the way, the simplicity of its design, but at the same time, one look at it, you know this is expensive. I mean, you look closely, that although the design elements are simple, but you look at the brushed finishes inside these elements. Okay, the fins, the cooling fins here for the LED lights as well. Okay, and these grooves here, they managed to make this headlight simple with just few elements, nothing overly fancy, but it looks expensive. And also these are the daytime running lights. Okay, let me just start the engine to show you the way it illuminates. So I've just fired up the 4-liter V8, all right, and you can see how this daytime running light illuminates. It is a very, very simple lighting signature, if I'm to be frank. Very simple, very elegant, but it is also, it throws back to an old Aston Martin design feature where they also used to have bumper mounted spotlights as well, and it's very clever the way they shape this, all right, to surround this air vent here. Okay, a very, very nice touch of design. So here you come around the side. Okay, this is, you see the bonnet shut lines, all right? So the whole bonnet opens up. This is the bonnet shut line. Okay, it runs here around this this trim piece. This is metal, by the way. This is metal. Here you can see this is the port to jumpstart the battery, and so it runs. It lifts up part of the wheel arch as well. This is a proper clamshell design. Look at the shape of the bonnet. Okay, very unusual, and you can see that Aston is not shy to expose bits of the car's chassis. Although the DBX here shares certain elements with the Vantage, it sits on its own unique dedicated platform that was built from ground up. Okay, so this platform that the DBX sits on is built from the onset. It was developed from the onset to be an SUV. So it also explains why the DBX, unlike some other SUVs, right, do not have awkward proportions. It is only possible because this platform was developed right from the onset as an SUV, and as a result, Aston Martin is also able to engineer a certain degree of off-road capability into the DBX. So this 4-liter V8 here needs no further introduction. It is based on the Mercedes-AMG 4.0 V8, but it is, however, hand-built in Wales rather than from AMG plant. So this particular unit here was signed off by Mr. David Nemo. Okay, and the engine is mated to Mercedes-Benz's 9-speed automatic transmission. So let's check out the boot. Okay, and you can see familiar Mercedes switchgear here. This is the port for your trickle charger in case you don't use your car that frequently. And I have to say, this is a large boot, beautifully carpeted. It's so lush. This carpeting feels lush. Okay, and you can see here the switches here allow you to raise and lower the suspension, the air suspension. This one here is to release the split folding seats, right? So I just press this, pop, pop. It doesn't drop the seats. You still have to go in front and pull it down yourselves, but this latch here releases them. So this is the removable tonneau cover, okay? But it's locked in place, as you can see here with this with these latches. So what you have to do is pull it up, and it detaches. I shall close this, and we'll come inside. And pull this down. Now you can see here there is another switch here that allows you to release the seat back. I shall drop this, and what they have done here is that there's a bit of slope up, but the transition is seamless, so it's good for loading bulky objects. And what's nice here is that you see all these edges, okay? All these edges here are leather finish. It's not hard plastic. You will not find, I believe, a square inch of hard plastic in this car. Okay, just found it, but this is forgivable. Okay, so I'm seated here at the back seat. I'm 170 centimeters tall. Got a fist of legroom above me, and this is impressive because don't forget the rear end of this car. If you remember how dynamic the profile is, the fastback profile. So for them to be able to still give a decent amount of headroom, that is amazing. Amazing packaging. See here, beautiful Alcantara finish on the roof liner, and yeah, even these grab handles, they are soft leather type grab handles, but they feel lovely to hold. Now, what is clever here is you see how immediately after the area of our head, this part comes down. Okay, so this is where the sloping of the roof line is accommodated, and presumably the motor for the panoramic sunroof as well. And here you can see the headrest is embossed with the Aston Martin logo here. Over here we've got the Isofix mounts here, and here. Okay, armrest, check out the armrest. It's relatively simple armrest, but inside here also you've got the Alcantara finish, so that's lovely. All right, and so all this is rubber line inside. And here you can see the rear aircon vents. All right, a single zone rear aircon rear climate control, that's fine. A nice touch here, the lock and unlock button. Okay, so if let's say like your driver gets down to help you tap out food, you see at the back, when the driver comes back, you can lock and unlock the door for him or her. Okay, 2 USB ports here to charge your mobile devices. And wow, even got rear ventilated seats. Nice, rear ventilated and heated seats as well. So more things to check out. Door card, nice silver trim here, and all this feel cold to the touch here as well. This trim here as well. You've got another aircon vent here at the B pillar, so it's a lovely place here to be in. Okay, and down the leg, good thigh support, not outstanding but good. Right, good leg room as well. The door pocket here, a relatively shallow door pocket, but beautifully finished inside. Certainly also, I think, big enough for you to drop your mobile phone and some documents here while you are being chauffeur driven. So at the side here you can see there are curbs, but no worries opening the door here, because as you know, Aston Martin doors, they open slightly upwards to allow you to clear the curb. Okay, so in here you can see this is, what do you guys think of this blue design? I think it's lovely, to be honest. Let me just open up the roof. Fantastic. All right, so you see up here, even the sun visors fully finished in Alcantara with mirror here as well. Even the edges of this mirror, look at this, got metal finish here, and there are two. All right, so there's a double layer sun visor. So what happens is, if you want, this is the one that you can pull aside to give you side side sun shading. Okay, all right, and you look at the edges here, it's all beautifully finished. Okay, so just one look around the cabin, absolutely stunning place to be in my opinion. All right, this blue color, I think, really is quite a special color, and I think it goes well with the design of this cabin. And you can see here, this is a very busy place, to be honest. All right, so here, this is the center touch screen, which compared to other Astons that we've driven recently, does not quite show off its Mercedes roots. Okay, so the thing is this, with brands like Aston Martin, Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, all these small volume, high luxury brands, right, they don't sell enough cars to make their own dedicated infotainment system. So in the case of Aston Martin, sourcing a third-party infotainment makes sense. The only complaint before this was that in some of the other cars, the UI don't disguise their Mercedes origins enough. I mean, no choice lah. When we talk about this interface cluster, no choice. But the screen itself, it should at least have a unique identity. And I have to say, this one here, I think they've got it right. Okay, this one has a more unique appearance. So, but evidently no touchscreen function. Okay, so it has its own unique appearance. And check this out. So at first I thought this was detached, but actually, so this is how you adjust the direction of the blowers. Okay, up, down, sideways. All right, and you can also turn to open and close. And this is all metal, so you can feel you can feel the coldness of the metal. And if you look closely as well, see the condensation there. All right, this is metal, so definitely no cost cutting here. And here, this switches here, temperature control switch, so as you adjust all your climate control actions is displayed here. Okay, fan speed adjustment, and see, come down here. Here, these are the panel of switches that control various functions. I believe this is the infotainment on-off, right? This is the lane keep assist, I believe. Engine auto start stop, parking sensors, parking camera, various parking camera angles that you can find. And if there is one thing that Aston Martin got right when it came to sourcing the infotainment system from Mercedes, it is because Mercedes gives you the best camera system in the market. Okay, superb sharpness, superb seamless stitching. I mean, look at this image. Look at this image. All right, it stitches the surroundings so seamlessly. It is a very easily comprehensible image. Okay, so down here you can see as well, below the center console, there's another storage space here. This is a wireless charging tray. This is the remote release for the boot. All right, okay, and this is all beautifully lined, and this is a slidable armrest, okay, which I believe, yeah, you can slide back to reveal the cup holders. You can lift this inside there. 12-volt socket and 2 USB ports. So let's explore the driving modes available. Okay, so this is the button is here. All right, and as you can see, this screen here changes along with it, but it doesn't stay there fast enough. So there's Sport Plus, which deactivates your traction control. All right, there's Sport for regular road driving. Individual allows you to customize your settings. Then there's GT, I believe, for day-to-day driving, and Terrain for off-road using, and Terrain Plus, okay, for even more severe off-roading. So you can see here there are 4 settings that you can choose from, right? That alters suspension, steering, engine, and exhaust. So up here, these crystal buttons here, this is the transmission selector buttons and the engine start-stop button. Okay, so let's turn this off now. All right, so that completes my walk around of the Aston Martin DBX. I'll be back here in a couple of days to take this out for a test drive.
Thank God that the brothers on the rise now. Endless celebrations all in my house. Levitating now, I'm super duper fly now. London boy, but DC where I reside now. Put the time in while you always yelling time out. And for quit it, cause I know I'm coming with it. You were sitting, you were wishing I was handling my business. Now I got the ball like Harry Potter playing Quidditch. And my business is humongous, you would think that happens in there. Damn man, I'm all that, yeah, I'm all that. Looking for that whip, yeah, that what you call that. I'ma blow up in the summer, have him yelling fall back. And I've always been ahead like an effing ball cap. Man, I came in the game like, whoa. Got a couple chains on me cause I like gold. They told me I'm the best and I told them I know. Cause when I'm in your town, every ticket I sold. Yeah, they saying I'm the man. Facts, bro. Lot of haters, tell me where they at though. I'm the new pop, all I do is rap though.
Okay, so now I'm back in KL 2 days after, and it's time to drive the DBX. So reach the switch to D, and parking brake is down here. Release, no, sorry, pull. Okay, so now I'm driving the car out in GT mode. Okay, so the first challenge coming out of, wow, so just now I went over a bump on one wheel, and the chassis articulation was very well composed actually. There's the very pleasant growl of the 4-liter twin turbo V8, okay, that we are of course very familiar with in its different form with various Mercedes AMG cars. No doubts about it, the character of this engine is a very pleasant one, and in a way, if Aston Martin were to get a powertrain from a third party, they could not have chosen a better partner than Mercedes AMG, because Mercedes AMG, let's face it, makes some of the best V8s around anytime. Wow, the ride is very, very supple. It's a hint firmer than the Bentley Bentayga, as you would expect. Okay, well, I have to say, going through these patches of road, the ride it feels well judged. And I know this is not the most exciting setting to try out an Aston Martin, but you see, in the case of the DBX, this would probably be the most day-to-day usable car in the Aston Martin range, and I think it is extremely relevant, therefore, to examine its behavior in slow-moving traffic conditions as well. Okay, so now we are on the rather busy streets of Jalan Tun Razak, and I'm just cruising along hard throttle acceleration, and you know, it's pleasant. The accelerator pedal is not the overly reactive type, so it's very easy to control this car in this kind of, you know, congested setting. And I have to say, despite its size, it hardly feels intimidating to drive, and that's honestly what you expect from most SUVs with this brief, right? You know, you talk about the likes of the Porsche Cayenne, the Bentley Bentaygas, and now here the DBX. These cars are expected to handle the rigors of day-to-day driving like this. But when you feel like having that bit of fun, it should still have that vast reserve of performance and dynamic competency, right? That for you to enjoy yourself. So to recap, the DBX here runs the Mercedes AMG 4-liter V8, right, with 550 PS and 700 Newton meters of torque. Now, of course, I have been reminded before that the block of this engine is shared with Mercedes, but the tuning, all right, and some certain internal bits of this engine are unique to Aston Martin. So this is not that they took the engine from the AMG GT or the E63 and just jump out in there. No, this engine is tuned and built specifically for Aston Martin's application, and it is also hand assembled in Aston Martin's plant rather than Mercedes AMG plant. Now, it is also hooked with the 9-speed automatic transmission that is also sourced from Mercedes. All right, which is logical actually. I think if I remember correctly, in the Vantage, the transmission of choice there is the ZF 8-speed automatic. Okay, so we have gotten onto the NKVE. This is the upslope stretch, and of course, as you would expect, the V8 really pulls nicely up this stretch. Very nice, very smooth acceleration. Currently cruising along in GT mode, it feels like a very, very pleasant cruiser. Very super poised around the sweeping bend. Okay, so I've been cruising for the last 5-6 kilometers along, well, this crowded stretch of the NKVE, and all I can say, you know, following all this traffic, the car it feels pleasant. It gives you that feeling that, okay, you want to go slow, we'll go slow with you. We just amble along with, you know, rest barely taking 1,008, 2,000 RPMs. But when you want to gun it indulges you. So it's like it's a predator ever ready to pounce. It's content to just stroll along at a pedestrian pace, and when you see a gap to gun it, it goes. So now I'm very gently on the throttle, I'm slowly accelerating, and you know, and it just wafts me along. So the response, what I'm trying to say is the response of the engine, okay, versus your throttle input, it is therefore very easy, very predictable, okay, for me to decide whether do I want explosive acceleration or do I want gentle acceleration? And this is a trait that is very important for this car to be used as a seamless day-to-day driver. That manageability, all right, that predictability of its response is very, very important. Because what you don't want is, you know, just a slight jab of the throttle and it leaps every time. It makes it therefore very stressful to control the car in congested situations like this. So what you want is that explosive performance on tap, but, you know, only delivered when you really want it. Okay, and as you would expect, this being an SUV, there is a bit of wind noise coming from the pillars, but the overall refinement levels in the cabin is still pretty good. Let's try some of the other driving modes. No, this is terrain. No, we don't want to do that. We go to Sport. So you see the oh wait, sorry, I went to Sport Plus. We don't want to switch off the traction control, so we shall go back to just normal Sport. Now just now, that brief entry into Sport Plus mode, everything just sharpened up. The transmission just went into overdrive, and yeah, the car just felt super aggressive, ready to pounce, right? It's a bit of a twitchy mode. But now I'm just dialing it back to Sport for a slightly more manageable on-road setting. So I can feel that the throttle response has sharpened up noticeably. I can't, because I'm on a very well-paved highway, I can't really tell if there's a difference in the suspension setup. But of course, the engine is now ever more responsive to proddings of the throttle, and every time when you slow down, the transmission will drop a gear or two, sort of like, you know, telling you, hey dude, when you want to pick up speed again, let's go now. You know, I think for day-to-day driving, the GT driving mode gives you all the performance and comfort that you require, and makes the DBX a very pleasant car to use overall. And don't think this setting is in any way soft, because you just push the throttle, you know, further down, it will still unlock a fair degree of acceleration. So the suspension soaks up all the rumble strips underneath very well, and I have to say again, it is absolutely stupid to put rumble strips on a bend like that. Absolutely stupid, because just think about that motorcycle going on that stretch in the wet. So now in Sport mode, right, every little prod of the accelerator, well, it generates more noise, okay, because there's also because it also affects the exhaust setting, but there's also a sharper sense to the response. And even with only 2 or 3 centimeters of accelerator pedal travel, you are accelerating a lot harder and moving a lot faster than most other cars on the road. So I'm going on full throttle. The acceleration is rapid, but amazingly, it feels quite manageable. It does not feel intimidating, it does not feel scary, but make no mistake, it's properly fast. Now there will be very, very few occasions that you would need to flick the DBX into Sport mode, alright, because it's already so capable in GT mode. But when you are in the right kind of setting to do so, when you're in the mood to do so, yeah, it indulges you with quite a bit of fun. Off the line. Oh, okay, off the line. Wow, I actually felt the rear end squat. It was that significant. So I'm going to take this fast one. Okay, just give a brake, let the nose bite in. Gun. My god, it just stubbornly holding on to the line. Alright, so in this ultra luxury Kwai Lan Hai SUV segment, right, your choices are really this, the Bentayga, the Urus, the Cullinan. We can argue, as I said earlier in the video, the Porsche Cayenne was really the car, the SUV that opened up the door, that paved the way for all these other models to follow. But see, the reality now is that product positioning wise, right, the Cayenne sort of occupies a slightly lower segment, okay, whereby it is a more premium product than an X5, than a GLE, but it's one step down from this guy, the Cullinan, the Bentayga, and Urus. Alright, so really this is in a class of these 4 ultra luxury SUVs. Now then when you look at this against the others, right, the Cullinan is ultra opulent, so it wouldn't be a direct competitor against this, okay. Then the Urus, on the other hand, is on the other side of the spectrum. It's like a Lamborghini on stilts, and that car is too sporty for too far the other end of the sporty spectrum, which leaves this against the Bentayga. And I have to say, all right, amongst these 4, the DBX and the Bentayga stands out as the most complete all-rounders in the segment. But the difference between the DBX and the Bentayga, of course, is that the Bentayga has a more luxury-oriented brief, whereas the DBX very consciously emphasizes its sporting character. So let's put it this way: a Bentayga buyer is more likely to be chauffeur driven, whereas a DBX buyer would more likely drive himself or herself. As I say this, right, I can't help but think of a similar relationship, between, it's almost like the E-Class versus 5 Series relationship. They cater to the same segment, but the 5 Series has a more sporty bias to it. A buyer of a 5 Series is more likely to drive the car himself or herself, right? Whereas the E-Class is a more luxury driven, a more comfort oriented positioning, and the owner is consequently more likely to hire a chauffeur, a driver. Okay, so it really boils. So the choice between the DBX and the Bentayga, it really boils down to your preference. And let me tell you one thing though, the Bentayga, okay, despite it presenting itself almost like a boat, that car is just as capable a performance car. That car has, the Bentayga has the handling and the dynamics and the performance to swallow many sports cars for breakfast. All right, but the contrast is that with the Bentayga, there is a conscious effort to also emphasize the more uncle side of its character. All right, so whereas this one, it accomplishes the same brief in being an all-rounder, in being a car that you can use on a day-to-day basis, but there is greater focus on the driving aspect. So like the whole time, right, as I was driving this car around towns of KL, going on to the NKV, heading to Setia Alam, and now back, the one thing that strikes me is how easy this car is to live with. And I had that similar impression with the Bentayga. The difference is in the Bentayga, everything is more muffled, everything is more silent, it's more hushed. Whereas here, the DBX, it doesn't hesitate to let you hear it scream. It doesn't hesitate to rock you a bit, because the suspension is slightly firmer, but still usable on a day-to-day basis. All right, so to drive, definitely the DBX is more appealing to drive versus the Bentayga. But the Bentayga, of course, will be more appealing if you are looking, if you're looking for a car to be driven in, all right? And also you want a car that has a slightly more stately kind of stature. Okay, so overall, I have to say, the DBX here is a very accomplished, very polished product, and I've said this many times before. Before I reviewed this, I've considered the Bentayga to be the best all-rounder in the ultra luxury SUV segment. So for me to consistently and constantly be reminded of the Bentayga, that to me is testimony of how good and how accomplished the DBX is. So of course, if you will ask me between this and the Bentayga, which would I choose, right? As of like 2 hours ago, I would still have answered you very, very confidently. I would have picked the Bentayga. But right now, I'm not so sure anymore, and I may be inching towards the DBX now, actually.